Our next speaker is Arthur Hoyle, and I loved his book, Henry Miller, The Unknown Seeker and Big Sur. And I don't live too far away from it. It's only a little over an hour. And I had lunch with him one time, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I remember him saying that he had written a screenplay about Henry Miller in Paris. We had three different people contact us about performing a full play or somewhat of a play during this event, and we just felt there wasn't enough time to do it. But I thought, well, they could maybe talk about how they incorporated Miller into their screenplay. So I remember Arthur had done that. I know he was talking, for the start of this, but would he, in addition to that, talk about how he incorporated Miller into his screenplay? He said yes. Mark Safranco also said yes, and Lisa Elliott Rosa said yes. So that's what this group is. After they all get done talking, they'll sit down to answer questions. Arthur.
So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how I came to write this screenplay and why, and then I'll read two scenes from it. This screenplay was actually my first serious engagement with Henry Miller. I hadn't read Henry Miller in college. I was a graduate student in English at UCLA. He was not taught. He was on the syllabus as a secondary option to read. He wasn't assigned. So I had never read him until sometime in the 90s. I was kind of in a funk and looking for something to read to give me a lift. And I was browsing in Barnes & Noble bookstore, and this title jumped off the shelf at me called Stand Still Like the Hummingbird. And I read that book, and then I said, this man is speaking to me. And then I just started reading more and more of his work. And then I had been a documentary filmmaker in the 70s, but projects that I had tried to develop for the commercial market did not get picked up. And I ended up going back on another career path. But this desire to express myself visually didn't ever go away. So I had this coffee table book on my coffee table in my house. Where else would a coffee table book be? And it was a book about Paris in the 30s. I can't remember if it was a Versailles book or just a collection of photographs about Paris in the 30s. And this light bulb went off in my head, and I said, oh, I'm going to write a screenplay about Henry Miller in Paris. So I decided to go the legit route professionally, and I optioned Tropic of Cancer from Tony and Val, and then got permission to take sections of other work he had written without actually getting film rights to them, just the right to use certain sections. And then I sat down and wrote the screenplay. And I called it Henry Miller in Paris rather than calling it Tropic of Cancer, because it was based primarily on Tropic of Cancer, but Tropic of Cancer had already been made as a movie, and Paramount owned the rights to Tropic of Cancer as a film property. So I was end running the problem of trying to develop my own script about Miller in Paris by calling it something else and not using that brand for the story. So it was my engagement with this script that ultimately led to me writing the book, The Unknown Henry Miller, because after writing the script, I started shopping it. And I had about 2 years on the option. And I got interest from a very reputable producer. And she started asking me questions about who should direct it and who should play Henry Miller. And I got really excited thinking this was going to happen. But then, as happens in Hollywood, phone calls went unanswered, emails went unreplied to, and I never heard from her again. So when the option ran out, I didn't renew it, and the script just went in my drawer. So what I did in writing the script was I tried to create that limbo area that we've talked about in some of the sessions, where the threshold between life and art that Miller was always crossing and walking back and forth between. So my idea in writing the script was to create the scenes in such a way that the viewer would never know if they were inside the novel or inside Miller's life. So I wanted there to be a blur about that line between art and life. And I did that by recreating or adapting actual scenes from Tropic of Cancer to scenes in the screenplay, and then creating other scenes that were based on facts that I knew about what he was doing in Paris, and just sort of blending them in a way that was indistinguishable. So with that as kind of preamble, what I'd like to do is read you two scenes from the script. And these are the scenes that happen before the main titles of the movie. And the scenes are kind of in two pieces. There's a visual description of what I want the viewer to see. And then there's an audio, which is, in these two scenes, it's all Miller's words. But you have to imagine, try to visualize the scene that I've described, and then lay over the voice, because it's voiceover from Miller, lay over the voice onto that visual scene that I've described, in order to get the effect that I was after. So the first two scenes are taken from Tropic of Capricorn. It's about his first encounter with June, which is where, for me, the story of Tropic of Cancer begins. So here's I'm a little nervous. I didn't realize how much this script means to me. So scene one, Broadway Dance Hall, 1923, night. A Broadway sidewalk near Times Square on a summer evening. A man in his early 30s, Henry Miller, wearing a well-tailored suit, walks along with the streaming crowd of pedestrians. He stops in front of a garishly lit dance hall and glances at the photos of the hostesses displayed by the door. His eye falls on a photograph of a beautiful, dark-haired woman, and he stares at it as if in a trance. He enters the dance hall. The scene flows as Miller describes it, like a dream, impressionistic, fluid, sensuous. Miller, voiceover. It must have been a Thursday night when I met her for the first time, at the dance hall. Entering the place, I felt like a farmer come to town. Immediately, I was dazzled. dazzled by the sea of faces, by the fetid warmth radiating from hundreds of overexcited bodies, by the blare of the orchestra, by the kaleidoscopic whirl of lights. Everyone was keyed to a fever pitch, it seemed. The air crackled with this electric desire, this all-consuming concentration. 1,000 different perfumes clashed with one another, with the heat of the hall, with the sweat and perspiration, the fever, the lust of the inmates. Find someone. That was all I could think. But whom? I milled around, but nothing suited me. It was her voice that brought me to. She had spoken my name, and the voice passed through me like smoke through gauze. She was ravishing, appearing suddenly before my eyes. I cast a quick glance to either side of me, hardly believing it possible that she had singled me out. And then a panic, though I was dying to throw myself into her arms. In a swoon, I let her carry me round the floor, and then again, and again, and again. And even before I ventured to draw her into conversation, I knew I would never leave the place without her. So that's the end of the first scene. Scene 2 is a scene I invented, the visual, but the voiceover continues from Tropic of Capricorn. Scene 2, double-decker bus, 5th Avenue, night. Later that evening, the streets of New York. Miller and June walk away from the dance hall aimlessly. Miller's voiceover continues so that the scenes are seamlessly joined. The dream atmosphere is sustained. They arrive at 5th Avenue, where an empty double-decker bus idles at the corner as though waiting to take them on a voyage. They board the bus and climb to the deserted upper deck. They make love. Miller dozes off with his head on her shoulder. When he awakens, she is gone. A scrap of paper with her name and phone number is pinned to his coat. The bus has reached the end of the line, and the bus driver has shaken him awake. So that's the visual, and then this is the voiceover that goes with that visual. I waited for her in the street on Broadway, and as she came towards me this second time, she took complete possession of me. We walked for a time through deserted streets, and perhaps, listening only to the sound of her voice, perhaps then she told me everything, all that I had ever longed to know about her. I remember not a word of it. Nothing had any meaning or importance except the future. I held her hand, clasped it firmly, the fingers entwined, walking with her into the overabundant future. As I thought of all that lay ahead, I began to grow from within, as if from a small seed. I grew inches in the space of a block. It was in my heart that I felt the seed bursting. I was approaching my 33rd year, the age of Christ crucified. A wholly new life lay before me, had I the courage to risk all. Actually, there was nothing to risk. I was at the bottom rung of the ladder, a failure in every sense of the word. Then the main titles come up, and the next scene is the pier in New York when Miller boards the boat to go to Paris. And June comes to see him off, but she's gone to the wrong pier and misses him. So that was the start.